If your code repeats, you are doing it wrong. Functions fix that. A function is a reusable block of code. Write once, use forever. Functions turn scripts into systems. Why functions matter? So let's say you are supposed to print checking login multiple times in Python. So what you will do is you can write it like this, and some of you might write like again and again, and some of you are like a bit smarter than the first person, so they'll use control plus d. And if the control plus d doesn't work in your VS code, you can go in extensions marketplace and just add notepad plus plus key map. Just install this one and control plus d will work for you. Okay, so this is a bad code. Why? Because same logic again and again. So how can you fix this? Just use a basic function. How you can make a function in Python? Let's do it now. So first of all, we will define our function using the def keyword, and then we'll name our function. Then comes colon, and then whatever you wanna do in that function. For example, I want to print this only. So now if I wanna call this is a function like created. We just created a function using this, and now if you want to call it, you can just call it like this. So now if you run it, it will print. Yeah, I think it will be readable for you guys now, or I'll just, yeah, it's much better now. Okay, so let's move ahead. One definition, infinite use. Now let's talk about functions with parameters. I'm gonna add basic function here. Function with parameters. So for that, we can use, we can, I mean, for that, we can create a function like this def greet and then user. The user will be our parameter, and we'll say hello and then user. So what will happen is we will pass a parameter, something argument in this parameter, and it will print hello username. For example, we can call this function like this, and now we, let's say my name, or let's just say xyz. So now if you run it, it will say hello Ritik. Why? Because we gave the argument and it replaced this parameter, and when it got replaced, it became Ritik, so it became Ritik as well. Parameter makes functions flexible. So now let's talk about what if you wanna have multiple functions in your, oh sorry. So let's talk about if you want to have multiple parameters in your function. So for that, first let's make a function and give multiple parameters like this. And now we'll say user, comma, user, and password and password here. Sorry for that. Okay. So now if you guessed it, that how it will work, that's nice. If you didn't, that's okay. So first we will give us our function username, because the first parameter is for user, and then password, and we can run it now. Now it's printing user admin. Okay, I think I used extra spaces. Yeah, I should have used space here. Yeah, now it's good to go. Now it's printing it like this: user admin, because admin replaced the user parameter, and password replaced got replaced with admin 123. And you can face error if your program expecting multiple arguments and you just gave one. It will say login missing one required positional argument. It means it is missing one argument which was required by your function, because our function had two arguments but we only gave one, so it's giving us error. Now let's say, like, name it two parameters function. Okay, so now let's make a function to return values. Okay, return values, let's say, and let's create a function saying add, and we'll take two variables a and b, which will return a plus b. Okay, so now we'll take a variable saying equals to, and we'll use add function, and then we will give 5 to the value of a, I mean argument, and b 3, and then we'll print a result. So I hope so it is clear to you guys already, but if it's not, that's okay. So here it is expecting two variables and then it will return sum of a and b. So what we are doing here is we just declared a variable called result, and we are using the add function here, giving two arguments, and then we are printing the result because we just stored this output in the result variable. So now if you run it, it will be 8. Return send. Return sends data back. So now let's talk about a real world example program, which will be login check. Okay, so first let's define a function and we'll call it check password, and the argument will be input pass, or you can say input password, and the correct password will be admin at the rate 123, and it should return that whatever gets inputted by user, it should be equals to correct. And now we will check if check underscore password admin at the rate 123 print access granted, and else print, let's just say access denied, not login failed. Okay, and let's just keep it in the program also, I mean function also. I'm gonna zoom out a bit. Okay, so now if you run it, you won't get anything printed. Okay, so I have figured out the problem. So the problem was, first of all, this wasn't needed at all, and this is using this one and like this logic. Actually, in simple words, this line wasn't needed at all. This program was functioning at this point only. So now if you run it, you can see access granted here. Let me just zoom it a bit, zoom in a bit. Yeah. Now it's saying access granted. Why? Because we were calling like the function here only, and I didn't realized. And what we were giving it we were giving it admin at the rate 123. And if the situation condition gets true here, like this one, it returns true. This will say access granted. If it doesn't return true, it will say access denied. For example, I just removed 3 here and I ran it again, it will say access denied. So that's how this program is working. Okay, so now let's talk about function scopes. So let's say a function called test and we gave value like 10 value to the x variable and we said print x outside the function. It won't work because it's outside the function, so it Python won't know that it is defined or no. So Python will consider it that it is never defined. And what happens inside a function stays inside. Now let's talk about a default parameter. What are default parameters in functions? So default parameters are like when your user doesn't give any like any input, so it takes the default parameter. Okay, so let's write a program for that. Let's just make a program for port scanning and we'll say port equals to 80 and print scanning port. So if you say scan 443, it will take port 443. But if you don't give any argument, it will just by default take 80 value for the port number. Smart defaults equals to clean codes. Okay, so now let's talk about some common beginner mistakes. First is forgetting return. Sometimes when we write program, we forget about the return, like this line. This line is very important in functions. And the second mistake is too many parameters. For example, you might take like this service, alternate port number, actually not like this, and XYZ, I'm just taking random, and like this. These are way too many parameters. And third one is writing huge functions. Like your function is way too huge, for example, like 200 to 300 lines of codes, and it will be a bad practice if you can just break that function into smaller functions. Call small functions clear purpose.